Hey, this is Professor Homa. Welcome to CSE 200, and we're going to do an exercise where we're just going to practice with some queries using our phpMyAdmin online software, not online, but web-based software. And we're going to download a sample database, and we're going to work with it just a little bit, and we're going to kind of do some query statements like we would in Microsoft Access. We'll just find out information. We're not going to create a database. We're not going to add entries, delete entries. We're just going to find out information from our database by doing some simple queries with some simple SQL statements. And by the way, if you want to find out more about SQL, and we will throughout the semester, we can use the W3 schools. We use this for JavaScript, HTML, CSS, PHP. We can also use it for SQL. And if you go through here, it'll give you some information about select statements and the syntax and things like that, and just some basic information if you know nothing about SQL. So I recommend starting to go through this a little bit, and we'll have some other resources, but this is a good one at your fingertips to use, especially when you get stuck for some kind of syntax issue or something. You could always come here and check. So we'll use this in the beginning of our course. Also, what I'd like you to do, if you haven't already, one thing you might want to do, I'm just in my documents, I'm going to create a folder right now, and I'm going to create a folder for CSE 200. And I'm just going to call it database, just so I know. You may not be familiar with the numbers, so I'm just going to call it CSE 200-database, and you could do that too. And this is on your home computer. And I'm also going to double click on here and add a folder for notes, because any notes that you download you might want to keep in here as well. So I'm going to add a new folder. I'll just call it notes, and that will be different than anything else we might download, like sample databases, which we're going to do right now. So the sample database folder that you're going to download, and it won't be all of them for the semester, but there's just a couple so far, we're going to download in here as well. So I'm going to go to e-learning, and I'm in my documents and resources page, and I'll take a look at this as students, and I'm going to download this file right now. It's a zipped folder that has some sample databases in it. And keep in mind, here's the notes. There'll be notes to accompany this assignment, but these are download files. So what I'm going to do right now, and I recommended doing this on Windows, I just find this easier, is to just click on the file, and it'll download right to downloads. Because on Windows, again, that's why I haven't made a video on doing this, but what you can do then is go to your downloads, and I'll go to my downloads folder, and here's my sample SQL files.zip. It's a zip archive, and what I'll do with this is I'll right click on it, and I'll do extract all, and it asks where I want to extract it to. So I'm going to browse, and I'm going to make sure I go to my files, which I believe under libraries and my documents, at least on my Windows partition, and I'll go into my documents, and there's my CSE 200 database, and I'm going to put it right in here. For now, I'm not going to put it inside notes. I'll just leave it loose as its own kind of folder, because it is a folder. And I'll hit OK. And then I'll hit extract. And there it is. Now, I also want to just double check of where it is. So I'm going to go back to my documents and go in there and just make sure there it is. So there it is. And this one I can delete. I don't need that Mac OS X. I'll delete that one, and I'll be left with my sample SQL files. If you go in there, there'll be 3 databases. We're going to be using this one called world-mysql.sql. We'll be using a world database. It has like cities, countries, and I think languages of the world. It's a kind of a sample database. So we're going to be using that one. So we're going to import that into our phpMyAdmin software, or web-based software that we're going to launch through MAMP. So that's what I'm going to do next. So let me do that, and remember to do that on Windows. Hopefully you installed MAMP and you set everything up, and you even changed the font size, because we're going to be doing some queries where you don't want the font size real small when you do that. So I'm going to launch MAMP on Windows, and remember, when you launch it, you can start the servers, and then you can open, I'm assuming you already set up your preferences, then you're going to open your start page, and for some reason mine opens in Firefox, which is okay. I could change that, I guess, on my Windows partition. But when you get to the start page, where you're going to want to click on is this down here. You're going to want to go to phpMyAdmin. So I'm going to click on that, and that will launch phpMyAdmin. And it'll still keep it in this MAMP tab. So even if you're in a different browser, or maybe you're in the same browser, it'll still say MAMP up here, even though you'll be in phpMyAdmin. And remember, I mentioned about changing the theme to PMA HOM and 92%. This is kind of what the home page of phpMyAdmin looks like. If it ever doesn't, if you start clicking on things and clicking on buttons and stuff, you know, you go to users and, you know, all different places, and you want to get back to here, just click on the phpMyAdmin, or you could just click on the home. There's a little home button there, which will go to the same place. So if you ever get lost in here, you can go over here. This is kind of the way to get to home. Now, it's going to show you databases. Now, you do see databases over here, and some of these are just stock data, or not stock, but they're databases that are installed that are part of the configuration with the phpMyAdmin. They're not databases that you're really going to get into and do anything with. These will just be here. So just ignore those right now. But if you go to, you know, if you click on databases, you'll see a listing of databases, which are those. And again, you're not going to do anything with these. But if you ever need to get back to here, you could just go to the home button and get back to this kind of start page. And this is what we're going to do first. You're going to import a database. So you're going to go up here along this menu, and you're going to look for import. And then this part should be pretty easy. You should only have to go here and just hit the browse button, because it will import an SQL file. If you scroll down, it does say format SQL. So you can bring in SQL files. So that's all that you should have to do. Even though you can actually import files that have a zip on them, I'm going to import just the single SQL file. So I'm going to browse, and I'm going to look for my documents and my CSE200 and go into the sample SQL files. And the one I'm going to use is going to be world-MySQL. So I'm going to click on that and just hit open. And all I have to do, there's nothing really specific, you know, complicated to do here, is just scroll down and hit go. That's all you have to do, is just browse and make sure you have the right kind of file, that it's the one SQL file, and hit go. And you should get a message saying it was imported successfully. Now, this is a big database, so it might take a couple seconds. And you should see it over there. That is the name of the database. That's the name of your database object, and you're also going to have tables inside it. So if you click on the little plus sign, you're going to see tables inside it. You should see things like city, country, and country language. There's 3 tables inside of here. Now, you don't have to go over here to navigate. You can, but that's our world database. But if you go to databases, you're going to take a look at the database, and you can see we now have world. And now if you click on world here, it'll show you the 3 tables. It says table here. These are the 3 tables that compose the world database. So that's pretty much what databases are made up of table objects. There's many tables that could be part of a database. And many of these are related. That's why they call them relational databases, because you would have cities that are actually inside of countries, and there's languages that are associated with countries. So they're not just, if they were just single spreadsheets, they could be in Excel, but because they relate to each other and there's a lot of information, they're used in a database management system. So that's the 3 tables that are in here right now. And when you click on one of them, like if I just clicked on city right now, what you would see, and it's saying browse because I'm actually browsing the database, this is kind of viewing the front end of the database. And you can see that you can edit, copy, delete, and do all that kind of stuff here. And you might be wondering, well, how many cities are here? I think I'm in city right now. How many cities are here? These are all the cities in the world. And they're actually not all the cities in the world, because I checked, and they only have 4 from New Jersey. What it's showing up here in this database, it's showing there's 0 through 24 rows, and there's 4,079 total cities in our database. So that's the total number of cities in our database. And it's saying showing rows 0 through 24 because it's only showing 25 rows. And you might even be saying, well, why does it say 0 through 24? Because row 1 is 0, and there's 25 rows on a page. And it only displays 25 on a page to start. You can change that. I think there's a little check mark that says show all on here. You could show 50 on a page. I know in a Mac version it has a show all. I'm not seeing the show all button right now. That might be at the bottom. But anyway, you could put more than 25 on a page if you wanted to, but that's what you're seeing. And it's just like when you go on a database and you search Google or something, you might have arrows that get to the next page. So, but sometimes if the database is too big, it'll even give you an error and say don't do that, because it may crash your browser. So leaving it at 25 is fine. We don't need to scroll through tons of them right now. Now I'm in browse and I'm viewing cities. Now I could go back to structure. You can kind of go back and forth. I could go back to the structure of our database, and what this does is this shows me the structure of that table. It's showing me that for the cities there's going to be an ID, which is a key, which is unique, because every city is going to be unique. No two are the same. So there's going to be a unique ID. It's just like your student ID or your social security number. It's unique to you and nobody else. And there's also going to be the name of the city. There's going to be a country code, which kind of links back to the country database or the country table, indicating what country it's from. There's a district, and then and that's like a state, because they don't say states, they say district. And even for US, we'll use district for state. And then there's population. So that's all it says about the city right now. Now also you can navigate up here. So if you wanted to get out of the city table, because we're in the city table, when you browse, everything we're doing right now is in the city table. And you see the structure of the city table, and you could browse the city table, and we'll use SQL to run queries on the city table. But if you're like, well, I want to check out countries, well, then you could kind of navigate with this breadcrumb trail up here and go back to world, and then you could check out country. And I could click on country, and it should show me kind of the browse tab, and that these are all the countries in the world. And I think this is accurate. It's saying 239, and it's again showing 25 on a page, 239 countries, 4,079 cities in our database. And if I want to see the structure of countries, of the countries table, there's a little more information here. Now these are the columns that are going to be along the top. Remember, these are sometimes known as fields. These are the fields that are going to be along the top in our database when we browse. So when we browse, just to show you this, when we browse country, it's showing the listing of it's showing all our records. Just to go over terminology a little bit, these are our records. There's Aruba, Afghanistan, Angola. Obviously, it's in alphabetical order right now, and you could click on these to change how it shows. If you wanted to, do it by population, the most populated countries of the world. It'll start with China and India, United States, Indonesia, things like that. So you could change the way it displays by clicking these things. We will also do queries, but what I did want to show you is that when you browse here, these are called the fields along the top. Code, it has a country code. It has a name like China, and this is all in English right now. A continent, a region, surface area, which it's its size, its independence year, population, and as you go across, there might be some more life expectancy, GNP, local name, a lot of different things here that you might not even, be concerned about right now. But those are all our fields for the countries. And again, if you look at structure, that will show you how these fields were set up. Structure is basically the setup of the fields. And it's basically, what kind of, are they using numbers? Are they using text? What kind of things are they using? Are they, related to another database? Do they have a unique key like a code? All this kind of stuff is the structure of the fields. The fields are kind of your organization of your database. And then your records are basically the data that populates the database. So that's kind of how this is set up. And again, I'll go back to world right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of go over some questions. A bunch of random questions I kind of put down, just if you're curious about cities and countries and languages. And I'm going to go through some practice questions, maybe about 10 of them. And then what I'll do is I'll give you an assignment. I'll do that on this video, and you could do it along with me if you're watching the video. And then what I'll do is I'll give you another assignment that'll give you 10 different questions that are very similar, because if I didn't do that, then you could just write down everything that I'm doing right on the video, and you don't want to do that. You want to be able to explore on your own and do some queries on your own. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to take a break here, and then what we'll do is we'll start writing some queries to our databases and find out some things about our database.